All right, let's dive into an ancient Greek comedy with a message so sharp it's still making waves 2,400 years later. We're talking about Lysistrata, and the story of how one woman took on the entire military political establishment with a plan that was, well, truly audacious.
So, I want you to imagine this. You're living in a city that's been trapped in a brutal, seemingly endless war for decades. The guys in power? They just won't negotiate. Your whole world is defined by loss and uncertainty. So, what do you do?
Well, in the world of this play, one woman is just fed up. She's had it with the senseless conflict, and she decides that if the men won't bring peace, then the women will. And her idea? Oh, it is going to change absolutely everything.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you need to understand the backdrop. This whole story is set during a real historical conflict. Athens has been locked in this devastating war with Sparta, and it's drained the city of its resources, its people, and pretty much all of its hope.
And we're not talking about some abstract political struggle here. No, the Peloponnesian War was this long, bloody mess that literally tore families apart. The stakes for every single person were incredibly high, which, honestly, makes what happens next even more remarkable.
And that's where our hero comes in. Meet Lysistrata. She's smart, she's persuasive, and most importantly, she is completely done with this war. She sees the men failing over and over to find a solution, so she decides, fine, I'll create one myself.
And her first move is just brilliant. She doesn't just rally the women of Athens. No, she brings together women from all over Greece, including from the enemy state of Sparta, represented by the amazing Lampedo. By uniting them across enemy lines, her argument is simple. All women suffer in this war, no matter which side their husbands are fighting on.
So here's the plan. It's this incredible strategic two-pronged attack. Step 1, seize the Acropolis, because that's where the state treasury is. No money, no war. Simple, right? But step 2, that's the one everyone remembers. A unified pan-Hellenic sex strike. The goal, to make the men so desperate that peace becomes their only option.
But let's be real, this was not an easy sell. I mean, the women were hesitant. They were scared. They were worried about their husband's anger and, their own desires. And this detail is so crucial because it just highlights Lysistra's incredible leadership. She had to convince them that their collective power could achieve what seemed totally impossible.
And with that, the plan is a go, and the battle of the sexes officially begins. As you can probably guess, the men are not happy. They're confused, they're angry, and they immediately try to shut down this female rebellion.
The first big showdown is just a perfect example of the play's tone. You have this chorus of old men. They're the old guard, right? And they literally try to smoke the women out of the Acropolis. But the chorus of old women is ready for them. They douse their fires, and their pride, with buckets of water. It's total physical comedy, but with a serious point about female resolve.
So when brute force fails, the establishment sends in a politician. The magistrate shows up, and this guy represents the entire rigid, male-dominated political system. He's there to lecture the women and send them back home where he thinks they belong.
Oh, but he is no match for Lysistrata. He argues that a woman's place is in the home, but she just brilliantly turns that right on its head. She points out that since women manage tangled household budgets all the time, they're more than qualified to manage the state's messed up finances. It's such a direct shot at the gender roles of the time. She completely outwits him, and then, to add insult to injury, the women dress him up in their clothes, publicly humiliating everything he stands for.
So while this political battle is raging at the Acropolis, the, let's say, personal battle is hitting home for the men. As the sex strike wears on, the men on both sides of the war, Athenian and Spartan alike, are getting more and more frustrated.
You can actually see their surrender happen in stages. First, they just laugh it off. Then, they get really angry. Then comes the desperation, which is shown in some of the play's most hilarious and over-the-top scenes. And finally, they reach their breaking point. They just can't take it anymore. The strike has worked.
Humbled and desperate, the men from Athens and Sparta finally come to the negotiating table. And who's there to lead them? Lysistrata, of course. She brings out a beautiful woman personifying reconciliation, and using her as basically a living map to peace, she helps the two sides carve out a treaty, ending the war for good. So the war is over. Everybody celebrates. It's a happy ending. But why are we still talking about this comedy thousands of years later? Well, it's because the themes are just as relevant today as they were back then. I mean, think about it. The play's themes are just timeless. It's a story about the power of female unity, of collective action, especially among people who are traditionally seen as powerless. It completely shreds rigid gender roles, it's a powerful anti-war message, and it shows how humor can be an incredibly effective weapon for political critique.
And in the end, it really is a story of triumph. The war is over. The men and women, the Athenians and Spartans, everybody comes together in this huge celebration. Peace, unity, and family are all restored.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. Lysistrata uses laughter in these completely outrageous scenarios to take on war, power, and gender. It really makes you wonder, in a world full of serious problems, could comedy actually be the most powerful and effective form of protest? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.